Good evening and welcome to this evening's Beyond Access session. It's 6:55 p.m. We're just allowing folks to start to enter into the room for our webinar session this evening. So please be patient. We'll start promptly at 7 o'clock. So welcome for those that are just coming in. My name is Andre Mitchell, Director of Family Empowerment and Communications with the New York City Department of Ed. Just allowing folks to start to enter into our room for this evening's webinar. So welcome everyone. For our interpreters, if you can rename yourself in the chat, or just rename yourself with your names, and I will start to tag you so that we can get started promptly at 7. Welcome everyone.
Hi, just checking in. This is the Spanish interpreter, Lisandra Payan. I can't activate my video, but I just wanted to make sure you could hear me.
Yes, we could hear you properly. And they gave you the access code and the conference number?
Yeah, I'm already dialed in, and the other Spanish interpreter is on the line with me as well.
Okay, perfect. Nope, you're all set. You're perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Welcome everyone who's just coming in. It's 6:57. We're going to get promptly started at 7 o'clock. Just want if our Mandarin interpreters can also either just tag themselves or rename, just so that I can promote you to panelist, and we'll get started in the next 3 to 4 minutes. All right, I see you. Thank you. All right, and again, we'll get started in the next 3 to 4 minutes. Thank you everyone for joining us to this evening's Beyond Access session. And we will be starting in the next 3 to 4 minutes for those that are just coming in. Numbers are starting to grow. I want to give everyone a few minutes. I know folks are coming off of work.
Hi, Andre. Also, this is Lisandra again. The other Spanish interpreter, her name is Jacqueline Soto, and she's having a hard time adding the Spanish interpreter part, but she's already logged on.
Okay, that's fine. As long as she can hear, so to use the conference line, that's the most important. But I'll try and look for her right now. Jacqueline, you said?
Yeah, Jacqueline Soto, S-O-T-O.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Hello, good evening. This is Mandarin interpreter Ziyo.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Can anyone let me into the conference line? I'm calling the conference line and I'm still waiting for to be admitted.
Yes, they should have. Did they give you the host pin? Because you're technically the host, so you dial in that number and then it starts the conference number.
Okay, I will reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Beyond Access series weekly webinar session. My name is Andre Mitchell, Director of Family Empowerment and Communications for the Division of Specialized Instruction and Student Support with the New York City's Public Schools. Thank you for joining us this evening on our last webinar session for the month of March, which also happens to be Special Education Awareness Month. So to wrap up our month-long webinar series, we are joined by my colleague, Jonathan Santiago, and some great colleagues with SUNY and our TCAC centers for a great presentation for you all this evening. Before we get started, just like to do some housekeeping. We have our Spanish and Mandarin interpreters on the line for anyone that will like to utilize that service for this evening. So I would ask for our Spanish interpreters to come off of mute and provide our attendees the conference line for Spanish, and then I'll ask the Mandarin interpreters to do the same before we get underway. So I'll start with our Spanish interpreters.
Hi, thank you so much. Hola, yo soy Lisandra. Jacqueline y yo seremos sus intérpretes esta noche. Si necesita interpretación al español, por favor, marque al 720-527-5818 y use la clave 160-5474 y el signo de numeración. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. And can our Mandarin interpreters provide the conference line for anyone needing our Mandarin interpretation for this evening?
Hello, good evening. 欢迎来到本次会议。本次会议有提供中文普通话翻译。如果有需要中文普通话翻译，请您拨打电话763-296-7275，然后再输入会议 ID 8407。如果你再需要中文普通话翻译，请您拨打电话763-296-7275，然后输入会议 ID 8407。谢谢。Thank you. I'm done.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So just to give some housekeeping before we get underway, this evening we are using Zoom webinar. This session is being recorded, and so if anyone has registered but is unable to attend this evening, they will receive a copy of this recording. You can always see this and previous recordings on our YouTube channel, which will make sure to provide you the link to that in the chat, as well as in a follow-up email thanking you for attending this evening. On your dashboard, you should see a question and answer section. This evening, we have over 500 folks registered for the session this evening, and so it's going to be hard to get to everyone's questions throughout this evening. So we are asking folks to, if you have a question that is relevant to the content that we are reviewing this evening, please direct that question into the Q&A section of your dashboard, and the central office team will be able to respond to that all throughout our hour this evening together. We will provide you as next actionable steps, a follow-up email address if you have any follow-up questions on concerns that come up today, tomorrow, the next week, etc., of where our central office staff will be able to respond to you within 36 to 48 hours, considering holidays and weekends. With the spring break coming up as well, be cognizant of that. We will have some interactive engagement with folks as well too. So we are looking for you to participate as much as possible. And for anyone that's coming in late, we will ask our Spanish and Mandarin interpreters to reread the conference line at the 7:10 hour, just so that anyone that's late coming in also has that information, but we'll also provide that in the chat section of this evening's webinar session. All right, without any further ado, I'd like to segue to my colleague, Mr. Jonathan Santiago. Jonathan, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Andre. So welcome. It's great to have everyone today. Good evening, everyone. I'm gonna try to start my video. I don't know if I hope it starts. Oh, great, it's working. So welcome, everyone. I'm gonna share my screen. So today we have an exciting program for you. We're gonna go over a little bit of transition information. And afterwards, we have a wonderful panel with some colleagues from the Department of Education, Office of Post-Secondary Readiness, from the Transition and College Access Centers, and also from Berkeley College and SUNY. My name is Jonathan Santiago, and I'm the Executive Director of the Transition and College Access Centers at the Special Education Office. And it's great to have everyone here today. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, just having, of course, a little bit of quick issue. Okay.
And Jonathan, you can take your time doing that. Let me just have the interpreters reread the line for folks while we're doing that. Can our special interpreter re-provide the line for those who just came in?
Yep, no problem. Thanks, Andre. Hola, soy Lisandra. Jacqueline y yo seremos sus intérpretes esta noche. Si necesita interpretación al español, por favor, marque al 720-527-5818 y use la clave 160-5474 y la seña de numeración. Por favor, también silencien el micrófono a su lado para que entonces así todos podamos escuchar. Gracias.
Perfect, thank you. And can our Mandarin interpreter do the same?
So weird. Good evening. 如果你需要中文普通话翻译的话，请您拨打电话763-296-7275，然后再输入会议密码109751。再播报一遍，如果需要中文普通话翻译的听众，请您拨打763-296-7275，然后再输入会议的 ID 109751。谢谢。Thank you. I'm done.
Perfect, all right.
Great. And I think I'm sharing my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So welcome to Transition and Post-Secondary Planning. Just a quick overview for students with disabilities. So the Transition and College Access Centers, our mission and vision statement is to support schools and families by facilitating a seamless transition for students from school to adult life. And we try to provide students with academic, social, emotional, and vocational growth and excellence so that they can have success after high school. So we do provide work-based learning and other vocational opportunities for students with disabilities. We provide access to college and career learning experiences. We train school staff on age-appropriate transition assessments. We also engage families in the transition planning process. And we develop-
You're
Jonathan, it's
gonna have
more
to
for the
reshare.
the quick interruption. I just want to make sure that you shine and that we shine, but we're only seeing one of your like the flower from your background. We're not seeing your slides.
Oh, you're not seeing my slides. Oh,
Yeah, it was there for a second, then it went away. You might have to reshare.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, let me.
You sound great.
You know, today's the day that there's that there's issues happening here. Okay, I do apologize. Share screen. Okay, so
Nothing yet.
okay, I'm going to put my PowerPoint over here.
There we go.
Okay.
Sweet.
That's what happens when you have two screens. So, all right, so our goals in our work. Again, we engage families in the transition planning process. We also develop and lead ongoing professional development for staff in the area of college and career readiness. So our stakeholders are the folks that we try to, that we engage with, our students, families, educators, school staff, community-based organizations, business entities, and post-secondary institutions. So just as a reminder, right, what are the transition domains? Education and training, independent living, and employment. And of course, we're going to be discussing today the education area. So what is transition? Just as a reminder, transition is a results-oriented process that is focused on improving the academic and functional achievement of the student. And it helps to move the student from high school to post-secondary activities and life experiences. Post-school outcomes and activities include, but are not limited to, post-secondary, continuing or adult education, vocational training, employment, independent living, and also community participation. And transition services are a coordinated set of activities for a student with a disability designed with results-oriented process that promotes movement from school to post-school activities. So when does transition occur? During elementary school, middle school, and also high school. And of course, during high school, in line with what we'll be discussing today, right? It's exploring and applying to colleges and also other colleges and also other universities throughout the state and throughout the U.S.
The next portion of our presentation.
College considerations for students with disabilities. So just quick differences between high school and college. So during high school, students have an IEP. Schools identify and evaluate disability at no cost to students. Accommodations ensure student success, and parents are involved in the process. During college, right? So there is no 504 IEP, and services are provided under the ADA. However, students are still protected from discrimination and are provided accommodations. Students must self-identify to the Disability Services Office. Accommodations ensure equal access. Success is the responsibility of the student. And college staff must have written permission to speak with parents and encourage students to manage their accommodations and services. So just as a quick reminder, 3 steps to accommodations in college: connect with a Disability Services Office, contact an accommodation specialist. And if you're ready to head to class, make sure that you speak to the professor and speak to the Office of Disability Services within your campus, identifying your disability and your request for an accommodation. So disability services tips: try to make sure your disability documentation is updated before you exit high school. Of course, these are for students with IEPs. Accommodations cannot be applied retroactively at the last minute, and your disability status and/or diagnosis, cannot be shared with anybody outside of the disability office within the college campus. So just want to do a quick background on transition. And of course, we all know that the Transition and College Access Centers are offices within each of the boroughs that serve as community hubs to help students with disabilities transition from high school to college. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And so I'm going to get to the great part of today's event, which is our panel. And so I'm going to ask our panelists to come on camera so that we can introduce you and so that we can get started with our questions and our wonderful program. So we have Carol Covino from Berkeley College. Carol, are you here? Okay, not sure if Carol's here, but we have Jonathan Murphy from the Office of Student Pathways. Jonathan, right, is here. Lori Barnes-Holden from the Queens Transition College Access Center. Lori.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry, my camera won't turn on.
Great, no problem. And just real quick, let me just pull up our questions for tonight.
It should work now, Carol. Sorry about that. There you go.
Carol is here, right?
Yes, she is, and her camera's working.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, great. Hi, Carol. How are you? Great to have you. Okay, and we do have one last panelist from SUNY. Is there a representative from SUNY here? Okay. So we might give them another couple of minutes, but in the meantime, we're going to get started. So I'm going to just start off with asking our panelists to introduce themselves. So we're going to start with Jonathan Murphy, and if you can give our attendees your name, the office or college you work for, and tell us about something that you've read this month or recently regarding education.
Sure thing. Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Jonathan, for inviting me to the panel, and Andre for having me here with everybody. Good to see the other panelists. My official government name is Jonathan Murphy. Most folks know me as Murph. I think I successfully changed my name thing down there so that it says that, and also the pronouns that I use, which are he and him. From the New York City Public Schools Office of Student Pathways, where our portfolio is really from kindergarten through grade 14. There are some high schools in New York City that include a 13th and 14th grade in partnership with CUNY. So we're a K to 14 group of programs in support of schools, really helping students find their pathway forward. That's why we're called the Office of Student Pathways. A lot of our more known work is in high school programming. There's a fair bit of work that we do in career and technical schools, a lot of work that we do in college access and career counseling. But I think some of my favorite work actually is the elementary school work that we do, because it is both never too late to be thinking about and planning for transition and for your future. It's also never too early. And we have part of our portfolio is the Save for College program, where New York City for the last 2 years has been opening 529 accounts for every kindergartner and depositing $100 in those accounts when they get activated. So that's what I've been reading about lately, because that program is new to me. I've learned that based on some research done in San Francisco, where they have a similar program and have for many years, that students with as little as $1 in a dedicated 520, like a college savings account, $1. The students for whom that's true are 3 times more likely to enroll in college than students who do not have a dedicated college savings account. But just $1. It's not about how much money they have. It's about the fact that they've been consciously creating an opportunity to invest in their future and thinking of themselves as college bound. That's true for 11th and 12th graders. Like that's how they've done the study over many years. And here in New York City, we're making those accounts for every kindergartner and depositing $100 in them upon creation, because the research says that's what works.
Yeah. And we just had a few people asking in the chat, can you explain what a 529 is for those who are attending who are unaware?
Sure, it's a kind of savings account that is tax-free. It's different states have different systems. It's basically a tax code. That's why it's 529. I can drop some links into the chat to help you find one. But you basically can save without paying tax on those savings for your children, for any children in your family, for them to take advantage of upon enrollment in any number of different post-secondary options, college, and a number of different certificate and college training programs to help pick up the tuition for the expenses associated with that.
Right.
And again, what the research is saying, though, like, it's important to save. A lot of pathways are not cheap, but the likelihood of enrolling and then succeeding is greatly increased just by the fact of saving even just a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Murph, for that great information. So we're going to move on to our panelists from Berkeley College. You can just give us your name, your role at the college, and yeah, a little bit of background of the college. That would be great.
Okay, so my name is Carol Allen Covino, and I am the Associate Vice President of High School Admissions for Berkeley College, and I've been with Berkeley for 30 years. And of course, Berkeley is a career-focused college, and we're located in Midtown Manhattan. And we have a variety of different programs that students can study. And what I've been reading is today, and it's a really hot subject, it's about artificial intelligence and plagiarism, and how these softwares like Turnitin and things like that, how are they going to be able to recognize if a student used AI in their work? So that's the hot topic for today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And it's great to have a variety of different folks, right? Partners from colleges, partners from the DOE, so we all can bring our great perspectives into this panel. And I am going to move on to our panel from the Transition College Access Centers.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Lori Barnes-Holden, and I am the instructional lead at the Transition and College Access Center in Queens. We have centers in all 5 boroughs. And one of the things I was just recently reading was from the Journal of Post-Secondary Education and Disability, and it was a literature review on barriers to accommodations for students with disabilities in higher education. And it really spoke to, TCAC's work, because a lot of themes emerged, and those themes that emerged of those barriers really help focus our work and help us, encourage the students and kind of really support them in the areas of the potential barriers that they might see. So it's a really interesting read on that literature review.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much, Lori. And I think we have our rep from SUNY.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Sanders. I am the Strategic Recruitment Coordinator for the Office Opportunity at SUNY, meaning that I support and represent all 54 SUNY schools regarding the Education Opportunity Program. I'm based in here in New York City, and at the last, so I have to be honest, I have not read anything as of lately, but I've been listening to podcasts. So my office has a number of student ambassadors throughout the program, and they've created a podcast about supporting students that's coming from low-income families to gain support to colleges and universities. And so they went throughout the system and interviewed our chancellor, our chief executive officer for the EOP program, and talked about the experiences and the ways that the programs like EOP or programs similar to it have supported students of themselves or students on their campuses. And it's really enlightening to kind of see how a program or programs like EOP or SEEK or HEOP support students on a daily basis, and why we should advocate more for them at a state level and as well as a local level.
Thank you so much, Mark. Pleasure to have you on the panel. All right, great. So we're going to go to our first question. And our first question is, can you tell us some ways that your specific institution, whether it's college or an office at the DOE, supports students with an IEP in high school when you transition to college? So I'm going to start off with perhaps our DOE colleagues. So Lori, question number 1, can you tell us some ways that your specific office or institution supports students with an IEP in high school when they transition to college?
Certainly, yeah. And that actually speaks directly to our mission that you mentioned earlier, that supporting those students. And we provide multiple ways. We have many workshops for students and families to help them prepare for college. So, and some of them are post-secondary pathways, navigating FAFSA, post-secondary funding, college considerations, career zone, self-advocacy, self-determination workshops. We also do one-on-one transition consultancies to provide the students and families with resources regarding their life after high school, that address the students' individual needs. We provide a lot of work-based learning opportunities so that the students have that opportunity to explore what their career goals are, what their abilities, their interests, while applying their academic knowledge and skills, and put that into a real-world context. And so this gives the students that exposure to a range of occupations so that they, and the career options, which help them decide what area of study they want to pursue when they get to college. So they're prepared in that way. We also have quite a bit of guidebooks for families and for staff, guidebooks on transition, specifically addressing those needs. So those are really wonderful resources for families. And we also run some programs like SYEP, which is specifically for our students with disabilities, our training opportunity program internships, and our pre-employment transition services. And we have that in the areas of the self-advocacy and post-secondary counseling. So, you know, at TCAC, we recognize that the students possess that unique knowledge of their own individual disabilities, and they need to be prepared to discuss the challenges that they're going to face, and what has worked and what hasn't worked for them in the past. So our workshops support those students in practicing those self-advocacy skills of speaking up for themselves so that they are prepared when they go out into college or any post-secondary institutions.
Great. Thank you so much, Lori. Same question. Mark, if you wanted to answer that question, can you tell us some ways that your specific institution supports students with an IEP in high school when you transition to college?
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole premise of our program is to support students who may not meet the academic requirement for regular admissions. And so what EOP does is slightly reduce the GPA, SAT, ACT scores for those students to gain access to those colleges. But we don't only want to give those students access to those colleges, we want to give them support. And so some of the supports that are listed for EOPs, additional advising, tutoring, mentorship, additional career readiness workshops, as well as soft skills development workshops. And this is just specifically within EOP. But also, we also have other programs within SUNY through the TRIO program, through an office called Student Support Services. And it goes a little bit deeper for those students who have IEPs. So for example, if a student needs extra test taking time, then they can request that within that office. Also, if a student needs to reduce classes, right? Some of our classes ranges anywhere from about 15 to 22 students. Maybe that student needs a classroom size of 12 or less, right? And so we offer those students those particular class sizes so they have a more comfortable, a better student to teacher ratio where they're more comfortable at learning. Also, we provide a variety of different learning styles. Some of our tech schools in particular, but all of our institutions offer hands-on internships or learning styles where students are not only learning in the classroom, but they're practicing what they're learning. So they get a better grasp of what they're actually there to learn and to use within their career pathway. And so that's just what we provide in a nutshell for students who have IEPs. And that service goes through from the time that they the time before they step in. We have a summer program that prepares students for college rigor. It's a 3 to 4 week program. The students are invited on our campus in the month of July, and they're with a cohort of maybe 20 to 200 of students with college advisors, mentors, and tutors to make sure that they are at the college level to succeed. Not only their first year, but every year that they're in a program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go to Berkeley College, to Carol, if you wanted to answer the same question. Can you tell us some ways that your institution supports students with an IEP in high school when they transition to your college?
Okay, so each one of the Berkeley College campuses has an accessibility support service representative through our personal counseling office. The student must schedule an appointment with the personal counselor in order to submit the application to confirm the request for accommodations. And then the meeting happens where they work with the coordinators to make a plan, especially for that student. And of course, we offer a variety of different support systems through our Center for Academic Success, as well as a summer program where they can take their college level skills classes. If they need the remediation, they can take them free of charge at Berkeley College in a 7-week format.
Great. Thank you so much, Carol. And a lot of great information for the 500 plus attendees or people who registered today. So awesome. Thank you. And so same question to Murph. Murph, some ways that your office supports students with or maybe without IEPs in high school when they transition to college.
Sure. One of the main things that we believe in our office is that as the central office supporting pathways planning, we can offer a lot of resources to schools But when it comes to helping students and families, the schools themselves, the counselors in the schools, and the counselors at the transition counseling and access centers are the folks who are better positioned in relationship and in available time to really help kind of navigate the systems of career-connected learning and transition to college or career.
Right.
That's true in every district and every school. We really sort of defer to the expertise and the relationship of the schools. Having said that, we do try to do some outreach directly to students in their junior and senior year, because we know that those counselors are often overwhelmed. And what we're attempting to do with our outreach to students, which we do via text, is encourage, like, give them a timely question that they can ask their counselor as self-advocates for themselves. And it's really for students with and without disabilities, primarily oriented towards immediate employment opportunities and upcoming college enrollment deadlines for like financial aid or applications. We're still sort of just learning to wield the technology. So we do this outreach to students to encourage them to bring a question to their school. Don't wait for your overwhelmed counselor to find the time to find you. Be a self-advocate, right? And we're equipping them with like the timely questions and maybe some links that they can explore on their own. Yeah. We also use that same text channel to introduce students to, upon graduation, to a mentor from the CUNY system that can help them in the summer after their graduation to really kind of actually land in the thing that they planned on doing come September. And that can be at CUNY, but it can also be in SUNY, it can also be in private, it can also be in career, it can be in certification, it can be in Access VR. The CUNY mentors are trained to help with transitions for students with and without disabilities, and often are actually really close partners with the folks like Lori at the TCAC. Like, that's an easy kind of referral and relationship for them to make. So I'll put I don't know who is here that might be interested, but I'll put the sign up for our student text to help support those conversations, and also a little bit of information about this CUNY partnership, which is called College and Career Bridge, for students the summer immediately after they graduate. I'll put those in the chat.
Yeah. Thanks, Murph. And just to piggyback a little bit off what Murph was saying, I mean, I just wanted to just say how great it is to work, right? Different offices within the Department of Education, but also our connections to the colleges and our different partners. It's all about the students at the end of the day, right? So it's a circle of great love and work together. So thank you so much. Our next question is, what are some critical supports students with an IEP should access during their first year in college to be set up for success? So I'm not sure, Lori, if you wanted to start us off.
Sure. So students should register with the College Center for Student Disability Services, whether it's called Office of Accessibility, or the Office of Accommodation. So they should find out what that office is. They should, students should also recognize that this can be an ongoing communication and a office of support for them throughout college. They should apply for those reasonable accommodations with an accessibility counselor to discuss the available accommodations, including assistive technology. They should have support with becoming familiar with the college campus. Knowing ahead of time where everything is located can really help reduce anxiety. So they should get that support of even just having a map of the college, knowing where all the offices are, where the, where they eat, where they live, where they, can go for any kind of support. Also looking into if they have mentoring and peer network programs, some additional educational support in case there's a peer tutoring. Looking for going to the financial aid office, seeing if there's any kind of financial aid assistance. And in addition, finding out about the recreation and social programs that are available in the colleges. So these are all kind of things that students should look into in their first year or even prior to entering the college.
Thank you so much, Lori. And I know folks have questions and have questions that they've been typing. So we're trying to answer those questions as soon as possible. Okay, so let's again, the question is, what are some critical support students with an IEP should access during their first year in college to be set up for success? And Mark, if you wanted to answer that.
Yes, so it's very similar to Lori. Students, I think the best action steps or pathways students can take when going to any of our community colleges is being a self-advocate, right? And letting us know what services that they've received in high school that they can continue into our school that we offer. I think that's one of the first lines of communication that should happen. And usually that happens on the onboarding process with our program within the EOP pre-freshman summer program, which usually happens in July. And so once the student gets to our campus, we assess them where they are and what their history is, and we can align them with supports that exist on those campuses. And as I mentioned, it can be from everything from additional tutoring, additional advising, mentorship, and a variety of different services that our student support services offer to help them navigate that first year and every year that they're there. And it's really a great program for students who are on that IEP track, to make sure that they feel as comfortable, but to make sure that they have the resources to make it through not only that first year, but every year that they're, whether they're a 2-year school or even at a 4-year school. So I think the first step for anybody that is IEP is to apply through as an EOP student and make sure that you attend that summer program, because that's where you want to get an onboarding of the services that you need.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna ask our panelists from Berkeley College. She can answer that question. What are some critical support students with an IEP should access during their first year in college to be set up for success? Thank you.
Look, I have to go back to what Lori said in the very beginning. Students really have to self-advocate, okay? And they need to bring it to our attention, because we have a lot of students who do enter who really need services, but they do not ask. And, one of the things that makes students fail in college is the inability to say, I need help. And so the first thing is advocating for services. So that's, again, through the admissions process, for those of you out there, we're not going to ask, hey, do you have any disabilities we need to know about? That's not a question we ask. So being taught on the high school side to come out and advocate for yourself, that's fine. And, the IEPs don't really transition to college. However, we do kind of support whatever needs are stated in those IEPs if they're general, reasonable accommodations. However, there are some times when students have to go out and get some other documentation for some of the things that they require. So again, if there's anything that you're going to get out of tonight for a student with disabilities, is speak up and ask for help. Because the help, every college out there has the help available to them. So by advocating for that. And then, we're all talking about our academic support centers, we call it Center for Academic Success. And that's really where the students need to go to find out what type of services are, and what's available to them. And yes, we all would provide tours to show them where to go, as long as they tell us we're here to support them. So, one of the things that, in preparation is, I'm going to say, just speak up and ask for help and let us know, because there is really no reason that a student should be struggling with anything. They just need to ask, and we'll help them find the way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carol. And same question to you, Murph.
I really just have one quick thing to add, which is again for students with and without disabilities. Kind of a classic first year whoops to not do is forgetting to complete financial aid paperwork. Like that's a huge thing that we concentrate in high school on your way into college. Every year in college, starting with your first year, but every year that you're there, you need to complete federal aid called FAFSA and state aid for New York that's called TAP or the DREAM Act in order to retain the financial support that you're getting to stay at school. And forgetting to do that paperwork or just not knowing to do that paperwork can get you in a real mess. Students with disabilities and without end up with debt, end up with dropping out, even though they were being successful because they simply can't afford it anymore. So it's a huge thing to remember to do every fall.
Yeah, thanks, Murph. Thank you so much. And very true. So our next question is,
Jonathan, I apologize.
Yeah.
One or two questions that came in, and I think it would be important because it was relevant to the question that you just asked our panelists.
Yeah.
We have one is, can we give an examples of documentation typically required to get accommodations at a college or on a college campus is the first one.
Okay, not sure if any of our panelists want to jump in and answer that question.
Carol, I know you touched on it, or Mark, if there's any documentation, letters from doctors, what are some things that they might need to provide an institution for accommodations?
You know, that really depends on the student, and I would actually have my accessibility coordinator answer those questions, but it could be further testing, letters from doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, those type of things, depending on what the disability is. And it depends on what accommodations they're seeking. Again, I'm not a specialist in this area, but yes, there are different documentations that are needed for certain disabilities and requests.
Can I jump in here? Also, one of the things that just want to make sure that when your student is still in high school, make sure that you don't waive any of those tests or those, psychoeducational exams and the triennial, and make sure that those are being done in high school so that when they do bring this IEP or those test results, that they are the most current, and you bring them to the college, and the college may use them if they are current. So again, make sure while the student is in high school that, not thinking like, oh, they don't need them, they're moving on to college. Make sure that those tests, because when they're done in high school, they won't cost you anything. And perhaps later, if you needed more documentation, you might have to pay for those exams, on your own. So please make sure that the IEP and all your testing in high school is up to date.
Yeah, and I will echo that. A lot of the documentation that we do request generally comes from the high schools that the students are at. So definitely work very closely with the students and their current high schools to see what services they receive and what additional services they may need moving forward.
Yeah, great. And Andre, you said you had 2 questions, right? So definitely great answering these questions.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. And then the other one is for Mark at SUNY. If do we have students who are accepted to SUNY College that are going to start in the fall, but they're here in New York City? Are there offices that they can visit and or talk to about these things locally if they're attending a SUNY campus that is outside of New York City?
So generally we have, well, a few things. So yes, so happening right now, there is a variety of different campuses that come to the SUNY Global Center, which I'm housed at now, where they come and talk to accepted students or prospective students about the services that exist on college campuses. So they have people who come in that they to give those students access here in New York to that information. Also, we have a variety of bus trips, which allow students to go overnight or even day trips to our campuses to experience our campuses in person and get a chance to get a triage of all the services or information, activities that happen on our campuses. That's coming up as well. So I will put in a link to our SUNY website where you can find more of this information about upcoming events, or whether it's here in New York City or opportunities to go to those schools in the future, and that helps.
Thank you,
Awesome.
guys.
Awesome. No, thank you. And as a matter of fact, I just want to be cognizant of time, right? Because these are great, we've got great panelists questions, we've got great panelists. So I'm just going to move on to the next question. And instead of, going from each panelist to each panelist, I'm just going to leave it open to whatever panelist would like to answer the question. But the next question is, what summer preparation can a student do prior to the fall term? How can a student prepare, prior to the fall term, to be prepared for their first term in college?
Well, the students can take those tours or virtual tours of the campus so that they know where all the offices and classrooms and gym and cafeterias are all located. And if they're traveling by mass transit, take some trial runs to the campus just to see how to get there, how long it takes. Also kind of, if they need that support, make an organizational plan using resources that help with time management skills, because that's one of the areas that a lot of our students might struggle in. So there's a lot of resources out there to help them with time management. If they have their class schedule in the summer a little bit ahead of time, look at your professor, the office hours of the professors, the location, and perhaps you might be able to ask the professor if you could have that syllabus ahead of time. And also a lot of post-secondary institutions offer summer programs where students can participate either while they're still in high school or after they graduate high school that summer before. And these courses can ease that transition into the post-secondary education. And a lot of times they expose the students to experiences that they're going to encounter when they get to the post-secondary education. They might have some things on living in the dorms, relating to other students, maybe eating in dining halls. And they also have instruction programs in certain areas. Sometimes I think somebody mentioned they might have some math and English classes, but they also might have some on certain skills in computer, writing, study skills that can prepare the student to be successful in post-secondary. And hopefully they take this, be proactive, and do this all before anything arises or before you're struggling and trying to catch up. So I would say just to really look at what's happening in the specific college that you chose.
Great. And so if a student is struggling, right, during a semester in one of their courses, when should a student seek assistance or guidance or seek help during the semester? When should they, if they're struggling, when should they seek help? Yes, Carol.
Oh, me, pick on me. Anyway, listen, first of all, one of the things that I do, especially if we know a student needs a little extra loving care, we introduce them to our Center for Academic Success for the very first day. And it shouldn't get to the point where they're failing and they're trying to get themselves out of the hole. At Berkeley College, we do have progress reports that do go out. FERPA is a really very big thing for parents out there. When your students start an institution, you should make sure that you are on that FERPA form, so we can actually talk to you about your progress of your son or daughter. Because it's sometimes they come to us when it's too late. So I go back to what I said before. They need to self-advocate. They need to say, hey, I'm struggling. I need this help. But like saying, taking these tours early in the summer, this is where you go if you're feeling unsure. If you need some little extra help, it's not even about getting to the failure point. It's about just that little extra help to get them through maybe their first assignment because they're not sure which way to go. We all have really librarians that can help them with research. We have tutors, we have staff to help them. So there's really no reason that it should get that far. But of course, we all have centers for academic success or student success that are just waiting for the students to walk in the door and ask for help.
Thank you so much, Carol. And so just one final question, and I can't believe the hour flew by that fast, but one final question. Any final advice that the panelists that you guys would like to give our audience regarding college?
Well, I would say, make a plan and plan early, and definitely take advantage of all the resources and supports that are available. And, just back to what we've been saying all along, students must be their own self-advocate and should be prepared to speak up for themselves. And also we want to make sure that the student recognizes their own disability, because in college, nobody's going to come and ask if you have a disability. They have to be able to be proactive and know what their disability is, and recognize how to explain it and ask for help.
And to build on what Lori just said, self-advocating could be as easy as just taking the seat in the front of the class. If they know that they get distracted by sitting in the front of the class, right in front of the professor, they can focus on that professor. That's such an easy thing that they've been taught all along, that they need a seat in the front of the class. They don't have to ask anybody. We don't usually have assigned seating in college. You just go and you find the seat that you want. So, yeah, so again, Lori, you're absolutely wonderful, I have to say, taking everything I wanted to say. But again, speak up, don't be shy, ask for help, because that's really where people get in trouble.
Yeah, and I would just add that, along with creating plans, have a list of people that you want to reach out to, or maybe even offices. I think I'm a big believer in relationships and building them before you get to the places that you want to go. Because that way, when you get there, you have people that you can contact and ask for advice or help guide you throughout the process. At least that was with my case. And for those students who may go through an EOP program or not, I think that piece of advice is always helpful, no matter where you go.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists, for coming tonight and for spending your time with us. We here at the Department of Education, New York City Public Schools, Office of Special Education, Office of Chief of Student Pathways, Transition College Access Centers. We are here to support you and your child throughout the transition process into college. And we have wonderful partnerships, such as with SUNY and Berkeley College, that we really hold dear to our hearts, and other colleges as well, CUNY and other colleges throughout the 5 boroughs. So we are here to support you. I want to thank you for coming tonight. I just wanted to spend the next 5 minutes answering some questions. So Andre, I think I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I'm going to just go over some that are in chat that I think that are relevant for all our audience attendees to hear, and just anyone can respond from our panelists. So is it better for a student to let the professor or professors know that they have a disability, or should they just report that to the specific offices at their campus? And then how is that information communicated to their professors?
So at SUNY, I think it's always a good rule of measure to communicate that with the professors directly, and also let them know the offices that they're working with for additional support. That way, all on both ends, this campus will communicate that to the professors, but the professors may not know who those students are until they identify. So when a student approaches them, let them know. It's always just a good rule of measure, so they have that additional support. And also, it's always a good way just to have that level playing field, so they can provide support, but also build a relationship with one another.
Perfect. And this came in 1 or 2 times, so I think it would be good for everyone to hear. If a student has an IEP which requires them to receive busing, does that carry over to college? And we've been answering some of that in the chat, but figured good for folks to hear the response generally.
So that's actually a very good question. And Laurie, jump in if I'm incorrect, but I think that the busing that's provided to students within the New York City Public Schools, I don't think that that extends to college. Laurie, I'm not sure if.
Yeah. No, you know, that's just for the New York City Public School students,
Right.
but you could definitely check with the different colleges to see what kind of supports that they give. Certain colleges might have additional kind of supports. I know some colleges in some college towns, the kids can take the public bus for free. I think that's in SUNY Albany, they get the bus pass, they can go. So it's really important to check with that specific college and see what kind of transportation options that they have. But they wouldn't receive it from the public school system once they leave.
Yes, and I'll add to that. If your child has an IP which is allowing them to get curb to school, so picking up right at their curb by their home and busing directly to their school and reverse, that won't apply to college. We do have our travel training unit, which is with the Office of Pupil Transportation, which will help to train students to how to use public transportation so that they could take advantage of some of those things that was just discussed. You can see our travel training unit webinar session on our Beyond Access YouTube channel. You can also direct your questions regarding the travel training unit to special education at schools.nyc.gov, and they can support your student if they are current New York City public school student and trying to prepare for taking public transportation in college. Okay. That's all the time we'll have for questions because we're coming up at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Want to thank folks for attending. Thank you so much for Jonathan. Thank you so much to our phenomenal panelists. This information was super helpful. If you have any future questions after this evening, please feel free to send those over to us at specialeducation@schools.nyc.gov. We dropped that in the chat. We also dropped some links to the 529 that was talked about earlier. I'll leave the room open for a few moments after we get off for any additional links that our panelists talked about that was discussed that they have direct access to. And Mark, we saw a couple of people actually ask about that podcast that you mentioned at your introduction. They thought it was really interesting. If you could repeat that for folks as well too before we close out. They really were excited about hearing more about that. So I want to provide that to them as well before we close.
Yes, the name of the podcast is You, Me, and EOP, and I'm actually going to put a link to it on YouTube in the chat so they can have access to the first episode.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you. So this concludes our Beyond Access series session webinar for this evening. You can always register for future webinars and you'll see additional invites and registrations in your inbox directly to you. Again, thank you all for coming out today, this evening, and we'll look to see you in a future webinar session. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, everybody, and good night.
All right, good night.